brighten up your space and save big money at Menards. Accent any area with Patriot lighting. From under-cabinet lighting to string lights, tape lights, and more, we've got a great selection of accent lighting options. Whether you're looking to light up the yard for your next get-together or add a splash of color to your gaming setup, Patriot Lighting has it all. Explore our lighting options and other great deals now at Menards and on Menards.com.
Save big money at Menards.
Looks like you need a vacation. Enter the 5-Hour Energy Where Will the Tide Take You sweepstakes. You could win a $10,000 dream beach vacation. Imagine jet setting off to a tropical paradise, having fun in the sun, or diving at a gorgeous reef. It's up to you. No purchase necessary. Go to 5HETide.com for official rules and to enter. That's 5HETide.com. Enter today. Ends June 30th, 2024.
All right. Hello and welcome to Volume 7 of Comedy Album Book Club. Woo! I'm very excited tonight. I'm your host, Jason DeLine. I'm an actor, voice director, workshop instructor who dabbles in comedy. And this is the monthly live podcast show where we listen to an influential comedy album and then talk about it with other comedians. If you're listening to the podcast, you should first do as we've done here in Toronto's Social Capital Theatre and listen to the Patton Oswalt album, Werewolves and Lollipops. This is his third album of 7 so far, and the first to break the Billboard 200. Released in 2007, George W. Bush was in the White House, and the Star Wars prequels were still fresh in our memories. Patton Oswalt was born in Virginia in 1969. He's 49 years old now and has appeared in many TV series and movies. Wrote for Mad TV. Is currently on a book tour for his late wife's book, which he finished. And next week, I'm very excited. I will have a one-on-one interview with Patton Oswalt. So we'll be taking some questions from the audience a little later. And I've also got a panel of guests with me. My first guest is a man who was in my wedding party, and I was in his. We've been friends in comedy and life and love for many years. Read into that what you will. Please welcome TV writer for such things as Inspector Gadget, Degrassi, and the Beaverton, Mr. Ian McIntyre. Woo. How are you, my friend?
The wedding stuff was very crucial there.
Yes, well, they need to know. Yeah, you never know. It speaks to our skill sets now that we can be in wedding parties.
Absolutely.
A lot of comedians can't.
And no, they really can't. Yeah, they really fuck it up. If anyone's listening to this, we are available for more.
Yeah, at very low rates. Open bar, we're there.
And to answer your question, I'm doing fantastic.
Good to hear. Next on the podcast, I have voice actor, singer, artist extraordinaire who has an art show coming up March 31st. Please welcome Meryle Evans.
Sure.
Yeah, you've used very different last names for different reasons, but we don't need to get into that. How are you, Meryle?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Applause for Meryle.
Yay.
It's weird to say applause for.
Do it.
But yeah.
Applaud for me.
It's
Applaud
an
for me now.
audio thing. So you've got an art show coming up at the end of March?
Yeah, I'm going to be part of an art show. Oh gosh, I know the acronyms for it, but I don't
What's
know the
the
actual.
acronym?
TAAP, TAP,
right.
Toronto Annex Art Party. There we go.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Congratulations on figuring out the acronym.
Yeah,
well, welcome,
yeah.
Meryle. Glad to have you
Thank
here.
you very much.
And on the end, please welcome my friend and improviser, Kyle Betts.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you, sir?
I'm adorable.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Well,
That's a
that
fact.
is confidence. So you and I have known each other for not too long.
Couple months.
Couple months, yeah.
I think we like each other, though.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. The vote's not in yet, but we'll let you know by the end of the podcast. All right. So
It's going to make or break that for sure.
yes, you'll be waiting to hear that answer. So Ian, you chose this album for this month.
Yeah.
Often when somebody chooses an artist and they're not sure which album to pick or something like that, I'll say, well, why don't we go with their first one and see how they broke in? But you told me this was his first great album.
Yeah. I saw all the other albums that you'd done on Comedy Album Book Club, and they were all very old. And I said, I'm going to fuck up your pattern. So I picked one from 2007.
Yes. The very recent 11-year-old 2007.
Yeah. I got to be honest, I didn't realize he had 2 albums before this. I thought I had all of his albums.
2 of them came out in 2004.
Okay, because there's Feeling Kind of Patent.
Yeah.
Which came before. What's the other one?
Yeah, that's what I want.
222.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Because I'd only listened to Feeling Kind of Patent, which is a good album, but you can hear him on this. He's so much tighter.
Yeah.
So much
Yeah.
tighter. And on Feeling Kind of Patent, it's very rambly. You can feel him like the bits aren't quite worked out yet, and he's working a lot of them out on stage.
Right.
Still maybe. And in this one, he's just so laser focused.
Now, did you go backwards after like seeing him on a TV show or something, or were you on board from like 2004, or when did you?
No, I was working a shitty job in a box office. And
As
I
all
read
box office jobs are, yeah.
I read an interview with him on the AV Club where they talked about the KFC Famous Bowls bit.
Do you know what year-ish this was?
This would have been like 2008.
Okay, so yeah, all right. So it's fairly
about
recent.
the year after
for
this
this
came
one.
out.
Right.
And they were just talking about that bit, and then I listened to it on YouTube in there, and I was like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I want to listen to all of this. And then I've listened to all of his stuff since then.
Is that how does that rank in all the bits he's done since the KFC bit?
It's weird. Like I don't. This is the only album of his that I really think hard about specific bits on. The rest of the kind of the album is just a whole thing.
Well, he's a storyteller, right?
Yeah,
Very different
yeah.
than the average comedian. It's a little bit of did you notice and stuff like that, but a lot of what ifs. I when I talk about Patton Oswalt, I talk about him as like a funny friend. Like,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
he's just the guy like, oh yeah, and then he's like, and then imagine if, and then what if this, and all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk more about this. But Meryle, what was your introduction to Patton? I know you have a good story about him as well.
I'm trying to actually remember when I first decided I really liked Patton Oswalt. I know I heard him before Werewolves and Lollipops, because when that came out, I was like, fucking yes. No, I was super stoked and then laughed the entire way through. I can't remember. I know there was a point when I didn't know who he was. But I feel like I've always loved his comedy, and I've really just, I laugh out loud so much
Fair
to
enough.
everything he says.
Have you listened to all his albums as well?
I
or?
think I have.
Yeah.
I genuinely have no idea. I'm gonna go home, find out tonight whether I
All right.
have in fact seen the whole, heard the whole discography or not.
Well, and that's the goal of this
Yeah,
podcast,
exactly.
is to make people look more things up. So, Meryle used to work at the Silver Snail, a comic book shop here in Toronto, and she has
is right.
a story about that.
All right, so it was 2010, and JFL, Just for Laughs, was in Toronto, and I kind of anticipated. I was like, Patton Oswalt's gonna be in town. He's gonna be like, oh, it's Wednesday. Where do I buy comics? And someone's gonna be like, oh, go down to Queen Street, go to Silver Snail. It's a classic place. You'll love it there. So I have from Firefly. He wrote a comic book.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So it was Wash Flyout, and it was a continuation of the Wash story, episodes that never, never made it into TV. So he wrote this issue about Wash, and I
And
had
it was
that
published
issue.
and had art and everything.
yeah.
Oh yeah. And I had a
It's
copy
canon.
of it. Oh, it's
What?
canon. Yeah, listen, sorry, spoilers, but it's where we find out that she was pregnant when Wash passed away.
I'm not a Firefly guy.
You need to change that right
You're
away.
out of my wedding party.
Oh, I'm very upset. I'm nerd raging right now.
Retroactively.
Nerd rage. So I
It's
had
gonna be Chris Hardwick's photo now in all your pictures, or Meryle. It'll be Meryle instead of me in all the
No,
pictures.
just holding up the.
She looks good in
comic
a
book.
suit. I've seen her.
Yeah, it's true. I do look great in a suit. We're working on a photo shoot coming up in April. Anyway, so I brought in my copy of the comic book, and I was like, I gotta get him to sign this.
Oh, man.
Nerd cred. So I bring it in on the Wednesday, doesn't show up. Thursday, I'm ringing through customers, and I look, and at the end of the lineup is a very sort of like the bored Patton Oswalt, like in his head sort of expression. He's got a stack of comic books and he has no idea what's going on. And he just sort of puts them down on the counter. I'm like, hey, I'm going to ring you through, but if you could first, and I turn around and pull my comic book out, I was like, I was wondering, Patton, if you could sign this for me. And he's like, oh, okay, sure. And then so he signed it for me and he asked my name, and then my manager comes over and is like, hi, I'm a huge fan, and starts geeking out at him and talking maybe a little bit too much. And then he's like, here, we'll give you a 30% discount. And Patton Oswalt's like, why? Don't. I have money. Don't give me a discount. There's no reason to give me a discount.
Salt of the earth.
I know, wonderful, right? And then, so I got it signed, and then I was like, can I have my picture taken with you? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I got this picture taken with him. And then about 30 minutes after he leaves, some guy comes up to the counter, and he's got this weird look on his face, and he leans over, and he's like, are you guys the store that Patton Oswalt was tweeting about? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Unreal. And then I immediately go to Patton Oswalt's Twitter account, and it says, wow, there's some cute Ghost World girls working in Toronto comic shops.
Ghost World.
I know. I was just like, oh my God, this is everything I've ever needed and didn't know I needed. Ghost World girls.
I love that his pickup line was a deep cut comic book reference.
And you know, I
and
grew
after
up,
he was nowhere near her.
Oh, I know. No, look at this. And you can look it up. July 9th, 2010. The tweet is still up. It still exists.
And we will publish the selfie she took with him on our website.
And I grew up loving Ghost World, and like people telling me I look like yeah, they told me I look like Enid. And then when I got a little bit older, people started telling me that I looked like Scarlett Johansson. And I was like, you know what? Both of them. It's fine. I don't care. I really don't care.
Hashtag life goals.
Achievements unlocked.
Great story.
Yeah.
Great. Kyle, how about you? You're a big fan, I know. When was your first exposure to...
You know what? I think this album was the first time I heard Patton Oswalt.
Oh, wow, cool.
I was just out of school. I was hanging out with some friends, driving a car, and my friend put in this CD, an illegal copy of this CD, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
snap.
And
Did you get it from Napster?
It was probably Napster or LimeWire, like one of those.
Or like LimeWire. I think Napster was dead by 2000.
Yeah, probably.
Could be.
And I know we're just driving this car, and like I heard George Lucas Must Die, and I thought, this is my guy.
Yeah.
I understand him. I
You
appreciate
related?
him.
I can
Yeah.
never read a quote of George Lucas's online anymore, or hear about him talking and not hear Patton Oswalt's impression of him.
That is such a note-perfect takedown to me of George Lucas. Like, it just gradually gets to the point where this whole thing becomes George Lucas doesn't understand what we like. He thinks it's about the ingredients that make the thing. And then when the rock salt comes out, it's like, okay, I see what this bit is. And then it turns into, here are other examples of things that you don't like that are the origins of, like the Angelina Jolie bit.
John Voight's ballsack is just classic.
Fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah. And a few of the bits do that. They evolve. It's not just a long laughless story to a punchline. It's a story filled with laughs throughout. And it got me thinking about comedians and writers. And I don't think every stand-up comedian is a good writer. Because not every stand-up comedian is a good stand-up comedian, but I think the best stand-up comedians are probably good writers, because when he was talking about punching up and stuff and how he wanted to move scenes around or add jokes and things like that, I imagine he's very meticulous in how he arranges his sets and where the jokes go, because the stories to me seem perfect. They have ebbs and flows and climaxes, and then they stop right when they need to.
Yeah, and you can really feel on this album too that he's paid so much attention to the structure of building a story. Like you're saying, I always think of that. I mean, there's obviously the bit where a heckler interrupts him.
Oh, wow.
Which is, I mean, that really shows how good he is at actually sort of improvising in the moment.
To me, that's one of the gold standards of heckler dealing. I mean, he goes on forever. It's great.
But I think it really shows like the sort of difference between, he does have a natural ability to sort of, just riff on stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's very clear how much actual craft he puts into the writing
Yes.
and how much actual thought. His brain comes up with that stuff,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
does take the actual discipline to put that stuff together in a cohesive way, make it more of
Right.
a story, and like the difference between the rambling in the first albums you were talking about and the really cohesive storytelling and punchiness of this one.
And isn't it, you can almost hear too, like when he's taking down that heckler, the jokes are kind of, there isn't as much of an arc to it because he's
Sure.
improvising.
Yeah.
It's really,
You're a
it's just like
douchebag.
punch,
Yeah.
punch,
Yeah.
like joke,
Yeah.
joke. Whereas then he goes back to the story and it's once again this very meticulously crafted arc of a thing. And
But also,
like,
even
I
to
think that the heckler takedown is great. It's just you can hear him not making something up as he goes.
yeah, it
in
doesn't
a
have
very controlled way.
it doesn't have a an arc to it. But still, some of this, like I wrote this down. When my body returns to the loam
I
and the
love that.
cities are
Oh.
burnt to dust. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you
That's
come up with
amazing.
that on the top of your head?
Well,
That's pretty great.
I think I've read somewhere that he's a huge nerd. He's done a lot
Sure.
of DMing for Dungeons and Dragons,
Right.
and I believe
Quite
that
well
he was
read, I think,
actually
too.
the DM for a group that included Brian Posehn and a bunch of other comedians.
Oh,
Right,
that'd be
yeah.
a fun.
So if you know that about him, you're kind of like, oh, well, no wonder he's so good at just sort of riffing
Yeah,
on that stuff and
slipping
also
into
using
medieval lore.
ridiculous language.
Yeah.
Oh
Right.
my God.
Oh, he went to William and Mary, I think, for English. Like, he's a smart dude. And,
Yeah.
like, some of the words he chooses on stage, like, they almost sound poetic. Like, it's very impressive.
yeah.
Yeah.
He really loves words, and it's
Yeah.
very clear.
yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to be really, really smart to say really, really stupid, ridiculous stuff.
Is that your slogan? Is that your excuse?
Well, that's I don't know. I don't know if it's my excuse.
I'm gonna use that for sure. What do you guys think makes him special? I mean, like I said before, I see him as like your funny friend. You know, he's a storyteller. It's not so much. Hey, do you guys ever notice that he just tells stories, but the way he tells them it's just so compelling.
Well, for me, it's what you're just saying right now. He's your funny buddy who's talking about Star Wars, but it's what you just said, Merle, the words.
Yeah.
His choice of language,
Yeah.
of a wet gray hillock.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, who
Glob.
says that? That's amazing.
Like,
Hillock.
it's just so, he creates such vivid visual images so
Right.
fast, and he just blows past them. Like,
Yeah.
other comedians would come up with something like that and build a bit around just that one great turn of phrase. And he's built a bit that's got 20 great turns of phrases in
Right.
it.
You know,
and
and
they gain momentum as they go, and they just keep coming. And, they're so memorable.
And there's lots of pop culture references as well. And, like, they're very, very deep cuts as well. Like, this
Yeah.
mortal coil, like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's
Where did that come
amazing.
from?
My goth heart soars.
Oh,
It's got a timelessness to it, though, too. There's something about the way he talks and what he's talking about that this album doesn't feel like an 11-year-old album to
No.
me. It feels like something that could come out now, especially since we've gone from red to blue to red again in the White House.
oh boy.
But one thing I was wondering, too, is, we've talked about how good he is at riffing but also how meticulous a writer he is. I would be so curious to see two sets of the same show, like
Oh, yeah.
on a tour, and to see how much the same it is. I know, Ian, you've seen Louis C.K. live, and you saw him do another live set, and it was basically identical. And I think we were both at the same Eddie Izzard show at Comedy Bar, and I think you saw both of them too. Or I talked.
No. Oh, no. I was talking to Mark Andrada, who is
Oh.
a really funny comedian in the Tech
Right,
Comedy Bar.
right.
Because that Eddie Izzard show, I remember being like, it's amazing.
It
just
felt
looks like he
so
made it
off
all
the
up
top
as he
of his
went.
head. It was incredible. Yeah.
And Andrada was like, it was almost word for word. both
Yeah,
shows.
to the wink. And
Oh
that
my
blows
gosh,
my
I was
mind.
at that show.
Oh,
I was
really?
at both of those shows.
Oh, Holy really?
shit. In the front row, just like being super distracting because I was like fangirl. Yeah, there was a bit different, but
Yeah.
he does that whole rambling thing that Eddie Izzard
He's
does
so good at
is
it.
actually like a lot of times word for word.
Yeah.
But sometimes he'd move stuff in the order and he'd add sort of extra stuff, or he'd decide to go in for the flourish and add a bunch of extra
He's
stuff.
so
but he really-
naturalistic, though, that you don't believe this is someone who's done this material countless times.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's why I never really pursued stand-up comedian. I think seriously, I've done it a few times, but I get bored of my own material, and I'm too lazy to come up with new stuff every single night. I don't know how. I really don't know how comedians.
I
do
feel
it.
like Patton Oswalt and Eddie Izzard have a very sort of the thing that ties the two of them together is that they seem to look at the world very differently than the average person does. Even though they're very interested in the same sort of stuff, like, there's it's all relatable stuff, but it's just from an angle that a lot of people might not necessarily look at it from, and they're able to sort of describe the weirdness of, I don't know, like a KFC bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Just because he's experiencing this stuff differently, or like because of Eddie Izzard's experience with like being trans and being, just seeing the world as a differently. And I think that's really what makes a good comedian, is the fact that you're looking at the world completely differently. You're the jester going, hey, did anybody else see this? Because I don't think any of you have noticed that this thing that we all see can be seen completely different.
Yeah, and he does it in a different delivery too. Seinfeld was huge during his heyday, and he was very much what we think of, I think, is the classic comedian. Like, did you ever notice this? And how about that airplane food and stuff like that? And he did it perfectly, but Patton isn't doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. He's not saying, did you ever notice? He's just saying, I went to this place, and he just tells a story, but it's still observational. It's interesting to me that this came out in 2007, and that year at the Grammys, the best comedy album was Flight of the Conchords, The Distant Future.
Nice. I remember that time well.
Yeah, it's crazy how time flies, right? And just to put things in perspective of what kind of comedian Patton Oswalt was at that time compared to his colleagues, the other nominees were George Lopez. Take a moment
I forgot
for
that man lived.
You make it sound like he was in a crash that he survived.
Carlos
he lived.
Mencia.
Lisa Lampanelli. Remember her?
She was around.
She had a minute.
Yeah, she did.
Sort of did the roast circuit, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Lost a bunch of weight and is now going on about that.
Stephen Wright.
Okay.
That's probably his last album. I didn't check
Classic.
that.
Oh, wow.
And Harry Shearer had an album that was nominated that year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, it was
yeah.
an album where he argued with people and wanted more money?
So I think Patton Oswalt was probably a new, fresh, young voice compared to those people. He wasn't nominated, but interesting to see how comedy was changing, I think, and it became, I don't know, I feel like for a while comedy was about almost the professor trying to teach people things, depending on the comedian. And some of it was a very, anarchaic. Is that a word?
Anarchic?
Yeah.
I think it's anarchic.
Like someone like Bill
One
Hicks
of those is right.
or something like that. But this guy, he gets angry from time to time, but it seems like it comes out of a real calm, friendly place.
It's definitely that nerdy kind of anger.
Oh,
yeah.
Like everyone has
nerd rage.
But I like,
supreme.
but it's still very relatable
without the
and,
toxicity.
He doesn't.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and also not the deep cut references that alienate a lot of people. Like
very
you mentioned Hal Jordan as a throwaway, which is fun for 10% of the people who aren't big fans. But a lot of it's still very relatable. It's everyday stuff.
Oh, yeah, like when he does... It's very smart on this album that his big bits that are about geek references are like the Star Wars prequels, which everyone had seen at that point.
Sure.
Like old Star Trek was kind of building the basis of
and
this
even
joke.
if you hadn't, he builds in enough that you get the joke. Like he says, Chekhov fired the lasers. Actually, it was Sulu. And if you're...
Phasers.
Oh, gosh, so sorry.
Him.
And I'm a much bigger Trek fan than he is. That's
You
just
were on
embarrassing.
Trek, for God's sake.
That's true.
Shame.
How many takes did you need to do to get that right?
I was out smoking during phaser class, okay, Ian? Thanks for calling me out. And yeah, Mom, I just started smoking at 40. Anyway, where were we? So he...
You can edit that out. It's fine.
But
Don't
the
worry about
idea
it.
is he explains the joke. He says, here's what. So even someone who says, oh, only nerds like Star Trek, the fact that he corrected the professor, that sort of informs the joke. And then the other one, the Star Wars stuff, he even if you hadn't seen the prequels, he says, oh, great, I can't wait to find out about my favorite character, Darth Vader and Boba Fett. And he's,
yeah, you get to see him as a little kid who got sad when his dad died.
And like anyone can understand that is a crappy thing. And I
they
love
were-
how it comes back twice. Like it's such a really great little bit.
They were in the middle of the whole like, all the Star Wars fans are so full of rage, and like he basically distilled the like just chattering nonsense that was going all over the internet about
Yeah.
like, why'd you steal our movie from us?
Right,
You know,
right.
so it's an excellent distillation for anyone who is like,
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of these nerds. Shut the fuck up. I don't care.
Right.
Oh, all right. Well, I get why you're angry now, Patton. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great point. He sort of was able to make a joke down that middle line that
Yeah.
people on both sides would still
Translatable.
find funny. Yeah.
It's been interesting too because like when I first listened to this, I guess 2008, so 10 years
10
ago,
years ago.
I was 30 or 26, and nerd rage appealed to me a lot more back then.
Oh,
Oh my god.
So hearing this guy just absolutely melt down over this thing, whereas now that I'm 36, I'm like, this stuff's not worth getting that mad about.
Right. Well, and the nice thing about comedy is it's one-sided. Like he doesn't have somebody else on stage just constantly telling him to shut up and who cares, and you know, and then making it heated
Yeah. I will
and
say,
angry and sexist and et cetera, et cetera.
speaking of the geek comedy thing, though, I will never forget, and Deline, you know the old sketch troupe I was in, approximately Three Peters,
Yeah.
which was, we called ourselves Sketch Comedy for Nerds. And one day I brought this album in and made them listen to the whole thing start to finish. And it was like we were listening to a thing that was, that's what we're trying to do.
Oh yeah, interesting.
That's the thing we've been trying and not succeeding. and falling short of.
Did you ever succeed?
Moving on.
I was hoping this would be the one moment he would say yes. Ian McIntyre is humble to a fault, but I would say you did. I really like the bit you guys did about what actually happened after the Return of the Jedi. About maybe you'd be able to explain it better.
Finally, I've turned this podcast into one about me. Anyway, oh no, it's just a dumb thing about like a alternate ending where they're partying with the Ewoks and we're playing the Yub Nub song and playing different characters, and it's just like the Ewoks explaining how the galaxy is going to fall into civil war now because of the power vacuum. And how all the rebels did was kill the emperor, but they hadn't actually stopped the empire, and all this kind of stuff. And it's very
Which
dour.
basically all came to pass.
Yeah, which actually we had to retire that sketch because the Force Awakens. That is basically the plot of it.
I think you might have a lawsuit on your hands, Ian.
Take that, Abrams.
Good luck with that.
Anyway, let's get back to the actual comedy album we're here to
sure.
talk about.
So this was the album you picked. This is number 3, and you listened to, I guess, number 1 or 2. They both came out the same year.
Sure.
So since this album, you have one that you like better, or you feel like he's evolved to, or that?
Oh, he's evolved for sure.
Oh, I watched the Netflix special recently. It is phenomenal.
Oh,
You
yeah.
will
Oh, yeah.
laugh.
Shit.
You will cry.
It's a beautiful
Oh, it's stunning.
special,
It's
yeah.
stunning. Like
It's just so fascinating too to see him over the years, to think like in this Werewolves and Lollipops era where he had finally found his voice from a joke writing perspective. There's no way he could have handled the emotional weight
oh yeah.
of doing 45 minutes of stand up about his very recent wife's death.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, I mean, I think something like that probably matures you pretty quickly. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just the fact that happened despite his age would, give you some, force you to reflect on some things.
And it's interesting too because listening to this album, I listened to it this afternoon before the show, and I noticed for the very first time that he mentions, I just got married and we did this thing with our parents. He talks very little about his home life in this. Like not very
Right.
many
It's not
specifics.
very
He
personal, yeah.
never mentions Michelle's name. He never really gets into that, and you can see album by album he gets more and more comfortable telling stories about their home life.
Interesting.
And kind of sharing that thing, so that by the time he got to this most recent Netflix special, I think he was really primed to be like, all right, I'm just going to be crazy honest right now and tell you about my grief, but do it in a way that was genuinely hilarious.
Well, he also didn't have to worry about exposing her to any kind of public scrutiny, I suppose. I mean,
I guess, but at the same time, I would assume he'd be more scared.
Really?
You know, in death, he doesn't want to.
Oh yeah, and because he gets all these terrible comments on Twitter. You know,
Really?
he gets the
yeah.
worst.
People are
Like,
assholes.
people are
man.
really shitty
I don't get
because they
people,
have
man.
nothing in their lives and they're sad and they just want to make someone else hurt because they don't know how to make themselves stop hurting. That's why people are assholes on the internet.
Wow.
Tell me I'm wrong. I'm not.
No.
That's applause worthy for sure.
Yeah.
Summed up beautifully.
Fuck, I saw one yesterday that he had made some joke that was kind of off color about something, and someone called him out for it. And the thing where I saw it was him admitting, he's like, yeah, that part of the joke that I tweeted just now, that was my old 90s comedy brain kicking in. He's like, you're right, I didn't need to. It was like a joke about a dead hooker or something like that in the context of some bigger, like he's trying to describe a seedy motel.
Right.
And he's like, you know what, you're right. I didn't need to make a joke about a dead hooker. That's kind of shitty. But at the same time, you, person on Twitter, didn't need to tweet at me about making fun of my dead wife as a response. Can we maybe both agree to not do that? So, yeah, you're right.
Wow.
Yeah, people are coming at him all the time with this.
Yeah. It's oh, the internet. Oh, Twitter.
Well, as we ponder the benefits and I can't think of an opposite word to benefit.
Not benefit.
Drawbacks. As we, I'll edit this out. As we ponder the benefits and drawbacks of
It was
the
a
internet.
mistake. He couldn't remember drawbacks.
God damn it. It's your last podcast, McIntyre. I'm going to burn all podcasts to the ground. We're going to take a little break, do some bathroom stuff. That sounds weird.
What kind of podcast
I don't
is
know
this?
you like that. I don't know you
We're
like
all just
that.
going to get in a circle, do some bathroom stuff, have some beers, and we're going to take some questions for you guys, for our panelists, and for my one-on-one interview with Patton next week. We will see you after the break.
Ooh.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. This is great.
Excellent.
What's it?
Comedy Album Book Club is recorded live on the first Thursday of every month at the Social Capital Theatre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Join us, won't you? We listen to the album at 9:30 p.m. and then we record the panel discussion for the podcast. Tickets are pay what you can, with some proceeds going to Covenant House, Canada's largest agency for at-risk homeless and trafficked youth. For more details, please visit us at comedyalbumbookclub.com. I'm Jason DeLine. Thanks for listening.
That was a movie, Pineapple Express.
Yeah, it was okay.
need to smoke more weed,
Pineapple Express is what? Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen and Franco.
Yeah, Franco, and then
Everyone's favorite America's sweetheart, James Franco.
but who was the other guy? The guy from
Danny McBride.
Danny McBride. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in that too. I never finished that movie because 20 minutes in, I thought to myself, oh, these guys just think you can improvise a movie, and they're not great improvisers.
Bro, you
And-
weren't high enough, bro.
Yeah, but that's-
Gotta get that dank shit, bro.
I can never argue with a sentence that starts and ends with bro.
No. Try to do it. It's impossible. It can't be done.
All right, we're back from our break. I wanted to remind you guys that all the proceeds from this show have always and always will go towards Covenant House, Canada's largest agency for at-risk and homeless youth. They do really great work. They actually not just shelter kids and give them food, but also provide education and tools to get back out into the world. They're amazing, an amazing place. So if you're able to donate to the podcast through e-money transfers or dropping money in the bucket here at the theater, please do so. It's an amazing cause, and it actually really does change the world for the better. So thank you so much. And so we're back, and we've got some questions from the audience. Now, let's take a look here. This question starts with the word deathbed, the bed that eats people.
Nice.
And then it says rape stove. Oh, number 1, deathbed, the bed that eats people. Number 2, rape stove. What's number 3?
Oh, like it should be a trilogy.
Yeah, obviously.
Oh, this is great. So you want these... You want us... Okay, what's the
Arson
third?
dishwasher.
Arson dishwasher. Cool.
The dishwasher that burns houses.
I'm going to go with
you.
buggery microwave.
Okay, and the tagline...
Shit, I got nothing yet.
That kind of fits.
That's also the tagline for Buggery Microwave.
All right, what else? We got to come up with 3 more, I think.
I don't know. I feel like the real true answer is Tommy Wiseau's The Room.
What about stab screen door? The screen door that stabs people. I've had it happen. I grew up in the 70s. Leave me alone.
I was picturing a screen door like holding a knife.
That's probably better for the movie.
By the way,
But,
just
they
to
were all
check,
made of
so
metal.
we're looking through these questions right now. Some of these same questions are still going to get asked to Pat and Oswald when you do your interview.
Yeah, so
Okay,
so some of these and some of them actually say for Patton or
great, okay, yeah.
But I'm just gonna read. I'm gonna read a bunch of them just so we can get our take on them in case we want to talk.
I
about
just
them.
didn't understand.
Well, we're just gonna read everything.
Awesome.
Okay, here's another question. How do you, Patton, feel? No, I'm just kidding. Do you see any similarities between Patton and any classic comedian?
You know what? I was thinking about this. George Carlin.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because George Carlin, he's a really good writer. He's a really good performer. And he kind of punches it up by being filthy or shocking, but he doesn't have to. And I feel Patton Oswalt, earlier on, he was more shocking. He used more bad, naughty language. But as he evolved and got older, he was funnier, but he used it less. So, like, he still uses it once in a while, but he doesn't have to. Like, he's still really funny without.
That's really interesting. And you were telling us before the show, actually, that one of your, the album's an hour long, and we decided to listen to about 45 minutes worth of it tonight. And one of the ones we were maybe going to cut, but you wanted to leave in.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what the name of it is. Clean, dirty humor or something like that. Clean filth. Thank you very much.
You know what? That I just love
Goof juice.
Goof juice. With that one, I just love how he starts off so dirty, and there's no intro, there's no explanation, just like the big tirade of filth, and then he changes his attitude. Oh, when I'm on TV, I'm so happy, and that just cracks me up every time. I love that.
Yeah, you like the turn there.
Yeah.
It seems like the audience did too. It's weird because he's talking about I'm gonna do this, I want to do this to you, and it seems very.
There's no reason for it, and
right.
then as soon
and it seems sort of aggressive to the audience, to the listener. They don't. Are you talking to me?
And also to a girl that you're dating that you play this album for. Which happened a long time ago.
Yeah, how long after did you keep dating there, Ian?
Well, it's not the woman I married.
Fair enough. We don't need any more specifics. Okay, next question. If Patton were to have a comedy partner, who would it be?
Well, back to what I was saying earlier about the D&D game. I want to see the D&D group.
Yeah,
with
Brian Posehn would
and
be
a
a
bunch of
good
other
one.
people.
I'd imagine that'd be a bunch of those like Mr. Show guys.
I think so. I can't remember the other ones, but it's probably the regular usual suspects that you would assume.
I would love to see him goof around with Amy Poehler on stage. I think the two of them improvising would probably be a lot of fun.
Well, you saw that bit from Parks and Rec.
I was about to say.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably what put it in my head.
Yeah. Chris Hardwick would be fun too. Alpha Nerd.
Oh, yeah, they would nerd hard at each other.
I think that'd be a little too much nerdity for most
Too
of the
much
world to
nerd?
handle, to be
Okay.
honest. Yeah. I don't know if those two in the same room. I don't know how accessible that is.
In a weird way, I'd almost want to see him bouncing off someone who is more straight, like not nerdy at all.
Yeah, I was trying to think, would he be the straight man or would he be the goof? And it
he
depends who
seems
he's paired with.
versatile.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So the answer is we don't know.
We're very good at answers.
Who would be his partner? Yeah, it depends. Yeah, he is versatile, and I think he could. Yeah, he could be the straight man. He could be a goofy vaudevillian, or he could be a slapstick guy.
Is he a top? Is he a bottom? He's both. He's a switch.
Like who is verbose and clever the way he is, and nerdy. Maybe Hardwick isn't terrible, but I just feel like they have a similar energy. All right. Anyway.
I don't know, Ron Funches? Him and Ron Funches. But that would also descend into nerdiness of, like, various varieties.
You are right.
Yeah.
I would love to see him play off Ron Funches.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun.
I love Ron Funches so much.
Or Paul F. Tompkins, maybe?
Maybe. I'm sure they've done
Yeah,
together.
they're similar sort of era.
Circles of friends.
Okay, here's another one. Patton was part of the alt comedy scene that involved acts like Sarah Silverman and Maria Bamford, and that was defined by its use of alternative spaces, much like comedy in the late 50s and 60s. Do you feel there was a parallel in the confessional and personal style of acts like Lenny Bruce, which led to Bill Hicks and eventually Patton Oswalt? It's a good question.
It's a great question. I absolutely think that there is.
Yeah.
Again, like I don't think Patton is getting quite into confessional material on this album, but he gets there in subsequent ones. And I do think that there's definitely, like you were saying earlier, this idea of like 90s comedy was almost more like, I'm going to teach you a thing, or it's a lot more structured.
Yeah, right.
Whereas I assume whoever wrote this question probably likes comedians of comedy.
It's a good show.
That was a tour that they did. It was him, Maria Bamford,
Right.
Posehn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like a play off of the Kings of Comedy, and
Sure.
it was like the Queens of Comedy, and they were like, we're the comedians of
Yeah,
comedy.
I remember. Yeah.
Just do jokes. But yeah, it was like looser, and they were. I think the point was that they were always in music venues or different venues, and not traditional comedy clubs.
Yeah, kind of more of a rock and roll type of vibe.
Yeah.
There's something about outsiders and also being outside of an establishment venue that really leads to, I think, more emotional honesty. Like, I think, a lot of comedians are really not at all in touch with their emotions or are doing comedy in order to, like, totally ignore their trauma.
I'm doing that right now.
It shows.
I think a lot of really good comedians are the ones that actually delve into the stuff that's really, really painful for them and are the ones that become emotionally honest on stage because, like, there's only so much of sort of, like, throwing up a wall and, like, using offensive edginess that before... I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no. So much of that offensive edginess is in our everyday vernacular anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's a comedian of the ilk of 1985 anymore. People are funny and they're quipping and they're sarcastic and they swear in front of people, and we demand more than that now. And the one thing that we're not comfortable doing is laying ourselves bare in front of people. So that is something that is attractive and interesting and something we relate to when we hear stories of pain that we're too afraid to tell ourselves, I think.
And if you're not performing in a comedy club where there are other comedians who are going to dictate structure at you and make bully structure at you, you have a little more freedom to get weird.
Yeah.
And you'll also see people come to those shows who don't normally go to the comedy clubs,
Yeah,
where
exactly.
they feel that that's a clique that they're not allowed to go to. If they're going to the place that they normally would go see Mamma Mia, then maybe it's a little easier a segue to go into that venue.
I agree. I was just going to say, I feel like alt comedy, too, kind of after 2007 or whatever this period was, alt comedy became kind of a dirty word. Because it became this thing of like, alt comedians, they just get up there and kind of jerk off on stage, and it's really loose.
Well, Louis C.K. literally
Yes,
did.
of course, yeah. Oh, God.
Poor everybody.
Yeah, poor everyone who had to watch Louis do that. It became very like self-indulgent and like I barely figured out a thing and I'm just being weird on stage. And, But you look at Patton here, and especially the people that he was doing this kind of alt comedy thing with, and it was really about getting away from that, like, you go to a comedy club and there's a 2-drink minimum and the guy's going to make fun of the guy in the front row.
Yeah.
Right.
That kind of bullshit. Like, they really wanted it to be a more inclusive, loose, fun.
Yeah, and I think part of that was, advertising was shifting too, and just any kind of presentation where people didn't want that faux sheen on it, like, hi, I'm here to tell you something. You know,
authenticity to it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also a level of surrealism and like almost like avant-Dadaism. Like I keep thinking about Eric Andre and just like that's a level of weird
That's a whole other level,
surrealist
yeah.
like
Yeah.
And I mean Patton does kind of like skip across that avant surrealism
Fixes
sort of
moments.
stuff. Yeah. Like a stone across the water.
Yeah, Eric Andre, I feel like is for a younger generation.
Yeah, of
now.
course.
Like a lot of people are loving that kind of stuff now, and I don't enjoy it. I don't understand it.
It's bizarre, and if you enjoy bizarre, then you're gonna be like, "This is I've never seen this before," and
Right.
that makes me laugh.
Well, I know you're a big fan of the Oh Hello.
Hello,
Amazing.
Which- and I can't stand it. I tried to get through it.
too
and I-
much
I had to
tuna,
watch it in
too much
5-minute
tuna.
increments, and I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't.
You don't know enough Jewish people.
Yeah,
Right,
Jason,
yeah.
why is that?
This isn't about me.
It
Next
was
question.
it was Purim the other day. I hope you were drunken in costume.
This is an interesting question that's going to be for Pat, and I like this one. Will your daughter have an 11th birthday party?
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh
my
shit!
God.
Oh shit! Called out.
You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just says yes.
Look, man, I said a lot of things when
Yeah.
I was 37.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I imagine she will.
Yeah.
But
I do think, like,
of
as you
course.
watch his specials over the years, it is the arc of watching a human being soften from their earlier geeky, angry,
yeah.
hard stances on things.
No, I think all men are shitheads until they hit about 28, and then they just kind of mellow out.
Oh, just 28? I don't know. I deal with men.
Okay, 29?
Listen, let me tell you about some single guys in
No,
their
you
40s.
let him have that, Meryle. He's the only person in the free world who believes that.
I really want to delve right
Yes,
into this.
you're right. Lollipops and sunshine.
I kind of want to
All right.
slit your throat so you die an innocent. But
Here, I'll just give him my necklace.
Meryle is wearing
A choker that looks like I got my neck slit because I like to purchase my accessories at Halloween shops like any good goth.
yeah. She's a good goth.
Good goth.
Good goth. Good goth. Okay, next question. Okay, this is for everybody. Do you feel like you take anything from how Patton Oswalt does comedy into your own work? What does it say? The something question. The Semcast question.
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, yeah, right.
Someone
Very
else's
good.
movie.
Yeah.
Very delightful Toronto podcast done by Norm Wilner.
Norm Wilner is a delight.
He is. For that, absolutely. Because I was writing a ton of sketch comedy when I first heard this, and I was all like, I love the specificity of language. And then I listened to this, and I was like, I'm nowhere near close enough to how far you can take this and be great.
It's a nice thing to aspire to, though. You know, so many people use the same words over and over again, and this guy,
Like
I feel, yeah, I like when people don't use that word.
Yeah.
I had to think about that sentence. There wasn't a the in there, but yeah, you know, people use a lot of the same words for a lot of the same things, and some people, I think, would be served by looking at a thesaurus from time to time. I don't think Patton probably has to, but others could.
He is one.
Yeah.
He is a thesaurus. You guys, what do you? Anything you take from or think you've been inspired by?
I was listening to the album, and he definitely takes some emotional choices that I appreciated. Like as an improviser, you just take a scene, you take an emotion, and you just go with it. And he's I felt that he was doing that at least a few times in this album, so
Cool.
that I liked.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I always like how just sort of ridiculous and weird he is, and he's just like, I'm gonna say things 'cause whatever. And it reminds me to be more goofy and to just be like, oh, don't censor yourself. You might actually be funny if you don't censor yourself. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. That is.
Just say the weird shit that comes into your brain. Someone might laugh.
It's true, and he does do a lot of that stuff. And he just starts talking like this, or he goes, "America, I eat my food out of a bowl." And
America.
yeah, people respond to that stuff. It's great. Sillier the better. Okay, Patton often walks a line between funny and vulgar, landing on the right side. In this writer's opinion, how do you feel he managed to aim his jokes so accurately and consistently punching them up?
I think he's very careful to make sure that the aggression lands in the right place. Like when he drops F-bombs that I'm not comfortable saying on stage for obvious reasons. Like yeah, like he understands that he's not.
Girls are designated badass tonight.
I think.
Wait, can we put
hold
him
on.
in this? Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
You
first
held-
off,
2 fingers were up in the air.
yeah, the audience understands that he's a cool, hip, liberal guy, so he's on their side. The audience kind of knows that going in. Secondly,
Okay.
when he says stuff like specifically like the homophobic slurs, like the joke is on the people making the slurs, not the people
Yes.
who are the target of those slurs. So
Right.
he's very careful in doing that. So I think that's why he gets
Yeah.
away with it.
He makes it the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just the way he does business.
I also think that's a bit of a 2070 thing, or 2007-ish thing he's getting away with.
In
Yeah,
2070, I
also
agree.
completely-
You will be put to
2070.
death for using those
Well, I
words.
think he's also spent a lot of time in comedy clubs seeing people fail miserably at it, or being like utter
Yeah.
edgelords, or being
And they're
like, oh,
crutches,
if I
right?
just say the drop an
Yeah.
F-bomb, then it's
Some people will laugh at that, but it's a crutch.
Yeah, and it's not
clever.
it's not actually comedy. It's just more of a shock sort of thing. So it's if you watch enough bad people in your art form, you learn very quickly, oh, don't do that. Don't be like them.
Yeah.
That was horrible and embarrassing, and I will make a note to never, ever be that person,
Right.
you know?
I see people write stuff online a lot about, I don't know why people get bent out of shape about swearing or vulgarity, and I don't really get offended by it, but I think I get offended on the behalf of other people.
Let me put
like
it
if
this
you're
way.
on the
If
subway
you
swearing in front of someone's grandmother, I mean, I don't want you to do that if it bothers them. But also, it's boring. Like, there are more exciting, interesting ways to express yourself.
And like, let's be real, like some of these slurs are the last word that a person hears before they're killed in a hate crime. And that's the reason why a lot of people don't like hearing those words. Like, you know, if you're a gay person in the audience and you hear someone say
Sure,
faggot,
yeah.
they're going to be like, that's cool. Thanks for reminding me that my life isn't worthwhile. You know,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
the reason why
No,
people
that's
get offended. It's not because they're touchy. It's because
Right.
they have a cultural trauma,
Right.
and that's valid. You know?
And I think it's definitely a 2007 thing to recognize, like, he's thrown those words around, but they're at a specific target. But I think now we figure out that, like, there's splash damage. Like, he's still hitting the
Yeah,
target,
that's exactly
but still,
it.
like, people are getting sprayed in the face with acid. Like,
You know, it's just sometimes people hear that and it's a reminder that they might not be safe where they are.
So do you
know?
think it would be frowned upon if he had said some of the things now where he was like, you know, I'm going to go ahead and say what he said. There were things like, yeah, I threw your gun from Blade Runner up on the roof, you fag. Like, do you think that would not...
I think that falls under what he was saying about
unintentional consequences.
Like I'm imitating someone saying
Right.
that. I mean, to be honest, when he talked in the Physics for Poets thing and talked about like, you know, me and my friends in high school, some of us we were all outsider kids, but we called ourselves art fags. Some
Right.
of us were gay, some of us were gay adjacent,
Right.
but you know, like we used that word, but
And that's
we
a-
weren't using it as hateful. We were using it
Right.
as like, yeah, we're these faggy little art kids.
But
I
that's
wouldn't-
misappropriation. That's sort of...
Well,
It's
the
taking the
gender,
word away.
it's they all still fell under the queer banner. So it
Really?
was kind of, myself and all my friends, we were, you know, under that sort of banner.
No,
so
but would he?
We did that. Well, it would be, I don't know if so much like
I mean,
for the Physics for Poets bit, I don't know so much how it might
because he's a
be able to
heteronormative guy.
get
who-
away with that.
Just because...
But
You
I
could
don't
have
know.
called yourselves adjacent.
A Gayson!
Every-
I'm so upset I didn't think of that. That's so great.
That's
Everyone
much
can
better.
enjoy that.
Everyone thinks
Oh,
that's
that's
adorable.
fun. Oh,
Okay,
that made me
we'll
so
all say
happy.
that from now on. Kyle, I'm interested in how you said you won't drop the F-bomb on stage for obvious reasons.
or like,
Those-
just in general in life. It's just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just like it's a risk reward scenario. Like any kind of benefit I would get to it is outweighed by a huge margin by the damage I might cause by it. So I just don't say it.
Oh, do you mean the F-A word or the
F
F?
A.
Oh,
I'll say
okay,
fuck
that
all the
makes
time. I don't care about
Oh,
fuck.
okay.
Oh, good.
Oh, that
no,
was
no,
so
no.
satisfying. Everyone
okay.
was like,
all
"He's
right,
never
we're
gonna
definitely
say-"
different.
Everyone was
Yeah.
like, "You won't say the F
So
U word,"
chaste.
and it would be great if you just said it right now. It'd be so climactic.
I'm
And
gonna
then
be,
you did.
I'm gonna be naughty.
And I just like to. I don't actually use that word outside of context of discussing like the actual
Sure.
semantics of.
No,
that
I don't think
word.
any of us on this panel do. I think
No,
that's
it's not
obvious.
fun.
Yeah,
Doesn't
no.
doesn't make you feel good. So
No.
don't say
No,
it.
it really doesn't.
No. All right, I think we're all clear where we all stand on that.
Yes.
But I don't swear. I don't really swear much at all. I don't swear on this podcast. The only swearing I do is really taking the Lord's name in vain because I really don't think that's hurting anybody.
Which
and
Yeah, Ganesha.
Yeah, which one?
yeah, Ganesh, damn it.
Hey,
my
don't hate on
favorite.
Ganesh. Ganesh is great.
Well,
Remover of
I'm glad-
obstacles.
I'm glad
Good
you
luck.
think so.
Listen, I never realized how much I sweared until I was hanging out with a Buddhist Lama helping him vacuum a rug, and I had to stop myself from saying, "All right, let's flip this bitch. Let's turn this over and we'll vacuum the other side." Lama Sherab, thank you.
I would like to think the llama would just smile.
Oh, he'd probably be totally fine with it, but it was just that moment where I was like, "Oh, wow, I do swear a lot. I swear casually and often."
All right, guys.
That's
Well, that's our show. Thank you so much to my good friend Ian McIntyre, whose wedding party I'm no longer in for various reasons. Somehow, you can find him for jokes and political rage at Mr. Ian McIntyre on Twitter. That's
More the latter than
MAC.
the former.
Meryle, you can see it at the Meryle on Instagram and Twitter, TheMeryle. And Kyle Betts, you just might run into him at your local soup kitchen. You just never know.
I'm just around.
He's around.
Wherever you need him, he's there.
Wherever you need him. I'm moving this weekend. Would that help?
Fuck yeah, I will.
Could you? No, I'm not really moving.
Good, thank God.
Remember, folks, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, and your favorite podcast app, whatever that is. So please subscribe, rate, and review. And you can see us on our website at comedyalbumbookclub.com, where the photo of Meryle and Patton Oswalt will be very shortly. You can also find us on Twitter at CABC Podcast, and on Facebook. You can follow along and ask us questions for future podcasts and suggest albums and guests. We record this show live after listening to the album the first Thursday of every month here at the Social Capital Theatre and in Toronto. Next month, we're back on April 5th. When my guest will be my friend and colleague for a long time, Neil Jones. He chose the album Motormouth by Ben Elton. We'll ask him why then. Until then, I'm your host, Jason DeLine. Thank you for visiting and listening to Comedy Album Book Club.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Corient. Corient provides wealth management services centered around you. They focus on exceeding your expectations and simplifying your life. Corient has been helping high achievers just like you enjoy their lives more fully, preserve their wealth, and provide for the people, causes, and communities they care about. As one of the largest integrated fee-only registered investment advisors in the U.S., Corient has deeply experienced teams in 23 strategic locations. Corient has extensive knowledge spanning the full spectrum of planning, investing, lending, and money management disciplines. Leverage Corient's exclusive network of experts to craft custom solutions designed to help you reach your financial goals, no matter how complex they may be. Real wealth requires real solutions. For more information, connect with a wealth advisor today at Corient.com. That's Corient.com. Corient.com. Swimsuit? Check. Sunscreen? Check. Phone charger? Check. Don't forget to pack the 5-Hour Energy. It fits great in a pocket or carry-on, and the alert feeling will help you arrive ready for anything. Now get 20% off when you use code 5HETRAVEL at 5hourenergy.com. Expires April 30th. One-time use only. Not valid with other discounts. Remember, visit 5hourenergy.com and use code 5HETRAVEL to save 20%.